This is a story about fate and death. 17-year-old high school student Alex Brownings was supposed to be with his classmates on a class trip to Paris, but a terrifying feeling completely changed his life's course. On flight 180, Alex suddenly saw the terrifying scene of the plane exploding. Engine on fire, cabin ruptured. Everyone struggled in the fear of death. This nightmare was so real that he broke down emotionally before takeoff, screaming to get off the plane. His unusual behavior caught the attention of the crew, and he was eventually removed from the plane. 6 other people were also forced off the plane with Alex. His best friend, Todd Wagner, the girl he likes, Claire Rivers, and the classmates who have always bullied him, Carter Horton, and Carter's girlfriend, Taryn Cheney. Additionally, there is Madame Lutton, the French teacher, and student Billy Hitchcock. These 7 people stood at the airport, helplessly watching flight 180 slowly moving towards the runway. Then, an unbelievable scene happened. The plane had just taken off when a loud noise echoed through the sky. Flight 180 really exploded. All 287 passengers and crew members on board were killed. Alex's nightmare became a reality. FBI agent Schlick began investigating the air disaster. He suspected that Alex might have known in advance. After all, how could a 17-year-old high school student have foreseen the plane explosion? But the investigation found no evidence that this was a deliberate terrorist attack. But more strangely, in the days that followed, these survivors who had escaped death start one by one die from strange accidental deaths. The first one to die is Todd. He slipped in the bathtub at home and was strangled by a clothesline. This looks like an accident, but Alex begins to suspect it is not a coincidence. He noticed that in the days before Todd died, many unusual signs appeared around him. Fan suddenly spins, speaker automatically plays, water mysteriously flows out of the sink. Alex sought answers from Bradworth, a mysterious funeral home owner. He told Alex that death had its own design and order. Everyone has a predetermined time and way of death. When Alex and others escaped from the plane, they disrupted death's plan. Now the death god is going to reclaim the life that belongs to it. More terrifying is that death will take their lives in the same seat order they were originally scheduled to sit on the plane. Alex began to carefully recall the nightmare, trying to find out the order of deaths. Todd was indeed the first according to the seat arrangement on the plane. The next one should be Terry. He hurriedly found Tali to warn her of the approaching danger, but Tali did not believe him, thinking he had a mental problem. Sure enough, Tara died soon. She stormed onto the road in anger after arguing with Carter and was killed by a speeding bus. Just 1 second before the impact, Alex saw those familiar signs of death again. The wind moves the leaves, strange reflections in the mirror. Even birds stop singing. Now the remaining survivors begin to believe Alex. The next one should be Professor Lutton, according to the order of death. They found her preparing dinner at home. The kitchen is full of potential dangers: scalding hot water, sharp knives, and leaking gas. Finally, Teacher Lutton's carotid artery was cut by the fragments of the exploded water heater, and blood splashed all over the kitchen. Alex realized that they could not stop death's plan, but perhaps they could try to change the order of death. He found that if someone saved a person who was destined to die, that person would be moved to the end of death's list. This gave them a glimmer of hope. Next target is Carter. This once arrogant young man began to feel an unprecedented fear. A car suddenly stalled at a railway crossing as a freight train was speeding towards them. At critical moments, Alex saved Carter, but a steel pipe that flew out after the train derailed pierced Billy's head beside him. Billy died on the spot, while Carter temporarily escaped death after being rescued. Now, only 4 people are left: Alex, Carter, Claire, and Burke, the cleaner who joined them later. Burke was supposed to die on the plane, but he didn't board because he had been fired. Now the death also has his eyes on him. In an abandoned warehouse, Burke was killed by a series of carefully arranged accidents. Cable broke. Heavy object fell. Sharp steel pieces cut his life like the scythe of death. Every detail shows the precise and cruel design of death. Several months later, the remaining 3 people thought the crisis was over and made a reunion in Paris. This was their original travel destination, but it has now become a place to celebrate rebirth. But they are wrong. Death has never given up. In a café in Paris, death once again arrived. A series of seemingly coincidental chain reactions occurred. Billboards became loose, scaffolding collapsed, and cables broke. Claire was almost hit by a falling billboard and was pushed away in time. But this is just the beginning of death's new game. A bus was speeding towards them, and just as it was about to hit them, the scene suddenly stopped. We don't know if they have truly escaped their fate, but one thing is certain. The Grim Reaper will never stop hunting until it recovers every life that belongs to it. This story tells us that there are things that human force cannot resist, and fate is one of them. When the Grim Reaper extends its hand, no one can escape forever. Every seemingly accidental incident, every small detail in life, may become a tool for the Reaper to take lives. Glass cup, wire, water heater, train, bus. In the Reaper's eyes, the entire world is its arsenal. Alex and his friends thought they could defeat death with their wisdom and courage, but they gradually realized that this game had never been winnable from the beginning. Death does not get angry or impatient. It just waits patiently and takes every possible opportunity to complete its task. It can wait for a few minutes, a few hours, or even a few months, but it never gives up. The most terrifying thing is not death itself, but the torment and fear of waiting for death. Knowing that you are destined to die, but not knowing when or how the Grim Reaper will take your life. This psychological torment is more cruel than any torture. Every survivor lives in extreme fear. Every detail could be a sign of death. Every breath could be the last. This movie cleverly uses people's instinctive fear of death to create tension through a series of carefully designed accidents. The director makes the audience realize that the Grim Reaper lurks in every corner of daily life. Water stains in the bathroom, gas in the kitchen, vehicles on the road, and steel at the construction site. These ordinary things, under the control of death, all became deadly traps. Alex's premonition ability brought him no sense of power, but endless pain. He can see the signs of death, but cannot truly prevent its occurrence. This sense of helplessness plunged him into deep despair. He tried to save every friend, but in the end, he found out that his efforts only delayed the Reaper's steps, without truly changing the outcome. Every death was carefully prepared and designed. The director uses cinematic language to hint at the approaching tragedy, making the audience feel anxious despite knowing the outcome. This knowing there are tigers in the mountain, but still going towards the mountain viewing experience, is exactly the charm of this movie. Audience knows the character will die, but not the way. This uncertainty creates strong suspense. The death god in the film is an invisible presence, never appearing directly, but completing its work through various coincidences. This processing method makes the death more mysterious and unbeatable. It is everywhere yet invisible. It can do anything yet never appears. This invisible enemy is more terrifying than any tangible monster. The ending of the story is filled with despair and helplessness. Even if they fled to Paris, even if they thought they were safe, death did not let them go. This endless pursuit creates a profound sense of despair. Maybe the movie wants to express that all human efforts are futile in the face of true destiny. We can temporarily escape and gain a sense of security, but in the end, we must face our destined outcome. There are no heroes, no saviors in this story, only a group of ordinary people trembling before death. They have the fear, selfishness, courage, and desperation of ordinary people. Their death was not to save the world, nor to seek justice, but simply because they disrupted death's arrangement. This setting makes the story more cruel and more realistic. Death Note is not just a horror movie, but also a thought-provoking work about fate and human nature. It makes us re-examine the fragility of life and reflect on the value of human will in the face of absolute fate. Maybe this is what the movie wants to tell us. Cherish every ordinary day, because we will never know when death will knock on our door.